There's people talking in my head. Oh, I think I'm losing it. Hi guys, how are we doing? I hope you're well. Thank you very much for being part of this, and thank you so much for sharing and liking and commenting on our videos, and hopefully this is stuff that you guys are finding useful. If you are finding it useful, and maybe you might find this useful for someone else, please kindly like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when we post any of these videos again. Today's video is about the inner self-talk. So this is the inner dialogue that shapes your results, your self-talk awareness. I know some people will actually resonate with the idea that there's so much noise going on in your head. There's so many things that you hear. And this is what we want to talk about today. So what is the inner self-talk itself? So it is the continuous running commentary in your head. Sometimes it feels like it's out of your control. You're not necessarily doing anything about it. It's just happening. It's just happening in your head, and there's not much you can do about it. But ultimately, it's the inner running commentary in your head that determines how you view the world, how it determines how you actually respond to the world. And this inner self-talk is repeated, and your brain actually acts based on the inner self-talk that you repeat. So whatever it is that you hear in your head, the voices and what they're saying, if it's repeated enough, essentially your brain actually reacts to that and takes that as reality. And this may affect your confidence. It will affect the way that you do things. It'll affect the actions you take, and it'll affect the way that you think, essentially. Now, what we want to talk about today essentially is how you can actually impact your inner dialogue for good results that you ideally want. We're going to break it down into two different things. The first thing is the impact of your inner dialogue, so what that actually does to you. And the second part is the steps that you can take to shape the results that you ideally want. Now, on the first part, I want to break it down into three different things. The first part of the three things that we're going for is the positive self-talk. Now, what is positive self-talk? If there is an ideal result that you're hoping for, this is ideally what you want to be looking at. So what the voices are supposed to be saying in your head are supposed to be taking you towards that ideal result that you're hoping for. That's what then makes it a positive self-talk. What can we do about positive self-talks? So this is using empowering, encouraging, and motivating words that actually take you towards the goal that you intended. Now, this also means you need to have a goal. Ideally, there is a result that you're hoping for, one that is ideal for you and the people around you, perhaps. But whatever that ideal goal is, the self-talk in your head needs to be ideally taking you there rather than taking you away from it. The second part is the negative self-talk. All right. And this is often magnifies flaws and fears and worst case scenarios. This is where you find yourself catastrophizing over certain things. So we tend to actually try to identify threats. This is what the brain is designed for. As I mentioned in videos before, that the brain is not designed for success, it's designed for survival. So ultimately it identifies threats. It picks out things that you're supposed to worry about. And sometimes it may catastrophize because it wants to keep you in a certain safe space. Essentially, if it identifies something that looks like a threat, it may make it look like an even bigger threat than what it is. And then what it does, essentially, it then listens to those voices that pull you back. Now, sometimes where your ideal result is, the goal that we spoke about earlier, it's on the other side of the things that you're fearing. Therefore, the negative self-talk that you then do, which is based on your survival and keeping you safe, can also hold you back from the results that you're hoping for. So that's what negative self-talk is, something that pulls you away from the ideal goal that you're hoping for. Now, the third part that I want to talk about is the you hack. Ultimately, when you're finding yourself in negative self-talk, you get anxious. So anxiety is when the reality doesn't meet your expectations. There's things that are happening that you don't expect, that you're not comfortable with, that when you step out of your comfort zone, you feel fearful, and that generates anxiety. So you find yourself in situations where you're thinking, can I do this? Should I be doing this? And you need someone to give you that bit of a push. And sometimes people self-motivate and give themselves that push. And sometimes we depend on discipline rather than motivation, where we do things despite how we feel and keep ourselves going. Now, the you hack is when you take things away from I can do this to you can do this. There's an element of a psychological move there where you take yourself out of the situation, because when you say I can do this, now you've placed yourself in the situation. It generates anxiety because you start self-doubting, you look at evidence of why you can't do it, and then you certainly start pushing yourself backwards and thinking, well, probably I can't because I've never been able to do it. But when you say you can do it, you can do it, there's an element of pulling yourself away from that situation, but still taking on the positive aspect of what it is that you're trying to do. Okay, those are the three things I wanted you to understand about the first part about it, the impact of your self-talk and what that actually does for you. And ideally, you want to be looking at this situation and picking out things that will take you forward, because this is not easy. This is something that a lot of us struggle with. And as I mentioned before in other videos, this is for typically business people, leaders, but also it can be good for you as a person individually in your own space, in the area, whatever it is that you're actually doing. These are aspects that will be useful for you too as well. Now, the second part is steps that you can use to shape your results. Now, in this, I want to go through 4 things in terms of what steps you can actually take to take you forward, based on the challenges that we've just spoken about, because most people actually struggle with negative self-talk. That negative self-talk came from somewhere. Now, this is a deeper work that you might need to do to find out where that negative self-talk came from, where all of the things that you hear, where did they actually come from? It might have come from someone else. It might have come from your childhood. It might be coming from other people that are saying things repeatedly that you have now actually adopted as reality, as truth. So those are things that you want to start challenging. Now, these are the steps that I would like you to consider looking at to try to challenge that. Okay. Now, first one is observe without judgment. Now, we mentioned about the self-talk, the voices that you hear in your head. Sometimes they are positive, sometimes they're negative. But then if you try to observe without judgment, as if you're not actually part of it, you hear a thought or you see a thought or whatever it is, however you view it, there's a voice that you hear and you actually step back out and analyze it as if it's someone else who's just said it. And then sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. You observe without judgment. So start simply noticing your thoughts rather than acting on them straight away. Just notice them and analyze them as if someone else just told you about them. Sounds like a weird thing to do, but then if you practice it repeatedly, it allows you to actually analyze your thoughts and start questioning whether they're true or not. The second part is challenge the negative. Essentially, when you catch your self-limiting thoughts, actively dispute it. Now, this is a good example where I can't do this, changing the I can't do this to I'll find a way to make it work. Most successful people, the people that you can think of right now, whoever you describe as a successful person, goes through this a lot or has gone through this a lot, where it's a case of they may feel I can't do it, or other people may tell them that they can't do it, but they always look at it as, what can I do to make it work? Which is a completely different situation where two people are in the same spot, looking at the same situation. One has the attitude of, I can't do it. The other one has an attitude of, how can I make it work? Completely different things that generates different results. So challenge your negative thoughts. Ask about whether it's actually true or not. And if you separate it based on the first thing that I mentioned, observe your thoughts without judgment, it actually allows you to be able to challenge that, because you're not necessarily challenging yourself. You're challenging a thought that's come up that you haven't got control over. The third part is integrate self-compassion. This is something that many people struggle with. Be compassionate to yourself. Speak to yourself in a way that you'd speak to someone that you love. We're really good at saying nice things to other people, things to people that we care for, things that we know these are nice things to say about someone because we care about how they feel. But we're not so good at saying those things to ourselves. We're very harsh to ourselves. And when we speak to ourselves, the voices that we use and the words that we use are absolutely harsh. Now, this is a bit of a plug for a book that I've read, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. And rule number 2 says, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, which is a very good rule that aligns with exactly what we're talking about now. Essentially, you want to be compassionate to yourself because you have gone through a lot that many people don't understand, and therefore you can't be harsh on yourself, because sometimes a lot of things that have happened are not necessarily in your control, but there are things that you can do about every circumstance that you're going through right now. So be compassionate to yourself and say things that will build you rather than things that will tear you down. The last point, number 4, is practice affirmations. Okay, this is an element of actually using words that are positive, that will take you forward, words that would have been put together by other people that have gone through something that you're going through now. So use present tense, positive statements that resonate with your goals. Present tense as in I am right now, essentially, rather than maybe I will. Bring the future to now, so you are who you want to be. And I'm not a big fan of the term fake it till you make it. I prefer it to be it until you see it. So believe you are the person that you need to be to achieve the results that you haven't achieved yet, but essentially you want to attract those results, and you don't necessarily have success when you get there. Success is in the journey, and the journey itself, part of it is affirming what it is that you want to achieve. So speak in present tense in a positive way and challenge your negative thoughts, essentially. This actually builds your self belief. Now, this is information that I'm hoping was helpful in terms of your inner dialogue and the things that you say to yourself and what words you hear. And actually, it may be worth considering, what is it that you hear the most? And who is it that's actually saying that? If we practice some of these things that we've spoken about today, hopefully this is something that will help you in being able to reach the goals and targets that you've set for yourself, maybe, and your families, maybe your business, your teams, whatever it is that you've worked on that you think is really important. Hopefully this is information that's helpful to you. Thank you again, guys. If you find this useful, please feel free to share it with people that might find it useful as well. And like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of this information when it comes up again. All right, take care, guys, and I'll see you soon.